Okay, so if we look at these three lenses, or different various camera parts that we're photographing, it's important to know that if I'm going to try and get a product shot out of this, and we're not talking about lighting or anything like that in this case, I'm just looking simply at taking the shots and getting the focus correct. If I focus on the lens on the left hand side, the other two are out, and if I focus on the middle one, the other two are out, and if I focus on the one on the right, we get the same problem. And I'm shooting at f8, which is really the aperture that I want to be shooting on this. Now it's really important when you're taking product shots that everything is in focus. So you could move them all in line, but then we haven't got the composition that we want. So there's various things you can do. In fact, I'm just going to move this slightly and bring it to about there. Move it back slightly. So now, what we want to do to get the perfect shot is to be able to combine an image where we've got all of the focus on all of the items. So basically I'll focus on the lens on the right and I take a shot, then I focus on the middle lens and I take a shot, and then the lens on the left and I take a shot. And then I can combine those three images using Photoshop to get me the perfect focus all the way through the image. And that is really important with product photography. Yeah, if you're just taking a photograph, normally you want that depth of field. You want to use the DOF to give a creative effect, and sometimes you can use that in product photography. But in instances like this, we need to see each product. They are the things that are being sold, so it's important they're all in focus. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to stop the video. I'm going to take 3 different shots and then take you through Photoshop to learn how to combine the 3. Okay, so what do we do now? We highlight these 3 images. So we're working in Lightroom. I right click on any of those 3 files. I can go to Edit In, and right at the bottom there you'll see as Open as Layers in Photoshop. So that will open Photoshop and it will take all 3 images, and instead of opening them individually, it will open them as one image as layers rather than separate photos. So I click that and then we just wait. It will open Photoshop. It takes a little while to open the 3. I think we're there now. So if we look at the layers, we have now got all 3 images. So we've got the top one, which is the lens on the left that's in focus, then the one below is the middle, and the one at the bottom is the one on the right. Now there's different ways of doing this, but I'll take you through the automated way first of all. So the first thing we need to do is to select all the layers. We click on the top one, we hold down the Shift key on the keyboard, and we click on the bottom one. That highlights the 3, and then we can go to Edit, Auto Align Layers. Now although we've used a tripod, it's always best to do this, because if there has been any movement, it will then put them right. It will put them so that they're all in line. So I'll just click on OK on that. It's on auto, that's fine. There we go, and it probably wasn't any movement in there whatsoever, so I don't think it's probably done anything, but you always need to make sure. So making sure all are highlighted again, we go to Edit and we go to Auto Blend Layers. Now what we want to do is to stack the layers. So make sure it's on stack, make sure it's on seamless tones and colours and constant aware fill, transparent areas, and we click on OK. It takes a little while now, it's blending those layers, and it will create masks on the layers automatically. which you'll see when we've completed. And there we go. And now if you look at the image, this one is in focus, this one is in focus, and this one is in focus. Now you can see there's a few little areas that aren't correct. Can you see these little blemishes there? And this blemish here? Okay, so for those reasons, I mean, I could edit this and I could put that right, but really I like to use, rather than the automated way, I like to use a process that's more manual. So I've been learned that process, and it's a good thing to do that and to try it out, because sometimes it will work perfectly. But if you've got little things like this turning up where we've got parts in focus and other parts not, so we've got little areas of imperfection, then sometimes using a manual method is much better. So I'm going to take you through doing that. So let's just close Photoshop. I'm not going to say no, I'm not going to save that. So let's get back to Lightroom. So I'm back in Lightroom. I've still got the 3 images selected, and I'm going to do that process again. I'm going to right click and I'm going to go to Editing, Open as Layers in Photoshop, just as we did before. So the first stage is exactly the same. We'll also auto align them in exactly the same way to make sure that the 3 layers are all perfect. So we just wait for them to come up. So that's the first image. It's the second image. And that's the third image. So now if we look at the layers, you can see we've got this one, which is the one where we've got this in focus. And then the second layer is the one where we've got the middle one in focus. And the last layer is the one where we got this layer. Okay, so the 2 lenses that are closest together actually are this one and the one on the left. And the one on the left is on this layer. So what I'm actually going to do, I'm going to drag this down to there. I'm going to rearrange the layers. So now we've got this one at the top, which is the back one that's in focus, and then we've got the next one, which is the lens on the left, and then the last one is the lens on the right. Okay, now using masks, and that's what we're going to be doing with this, the bit that we want on this top layer, so you can see this top one where we've got this part in focus, what I want is that. I don't want any other parts of the image. Yeah, and also I don't like this sharp line. So actually the only bit of this that I want is that lens. So all I'm going to do is to create a mask on that. So to create a mask on that, if I do various things, I can select just that area. Now the method that I'm going to use is a new method in Photoshop. So to do this, if you do it the other way, that's fine. The older versions do that. But in the new version of Photoshop, in the last few versions, you've got a new tool. If we click down on these selection tools here, you will see Object Selection Tool. So if you click on that, this is a great new tool, because what it will allow me to do, remember we're on this layer, and that is the one with this lens in focus. And what I want to do is to use this tool. I'm very quickly just going to draw around this very loosely, like that, and you can see it's selected that area, and it's almost a perfect selection. So what I'm going to do with that is I'm going to go to this layer, and now I'm going to click this mask tool. So add layer mask, and what that will do, it will create a mask, and it will only show the area that is selected now. So when I put the mask on, you will see it is automatically now, if we look at the one on the left, that is in focus. The only one that isn't in focus now is this macro lens here. So we've got this in focus. Now if we go down to the next layer, and that's the one, if we look at the left hand side, that is the area we want. That's the bit that this layer contains that's in focus. And we do exactly the same thing, making sure on that layer we use the same tool. I'm just going to go around it like this. Now this tool has actually got two modes, so I'll explain that before I go any further. That's made the selection. Usually the selection when you first use it is on rectangle. So if you look on the options bar, you look at these options, you've got rectangle and lasso. I prefer lasso, so I just draw roughly around it rather than use the rectangle. I just find it's much better at getting what you want. Okay, so I've been explaining that. It's on lasso. We go back to our layers, and then we add another layer mask. Now what's happening is the top layer is just showing this area, the white area there, which is this middle lens. This one is showing that area. And if I click on this one, that's showing through now, because we're only showing these little areas on the other two layers. So now we've got all three layers in focus. We've got the same effect on the background on all of the images, because the background is all coming from this layer, and we've got no editing to do. Okay, so that's really a much better way of getting exactly what you want in focus.